might be overstating that, but I think we are on completely opposite sides.
On the contrary, I think
Really?
in a way, we are mirror images, in that you are fighting for your people, I'm fighting for mine.
And I've been reading a lot of the things that you've
Yes,
said,
yes.
and I really can't agree on most of them, but what I really appreciate
Yes.
is that there's a willingness from your part and mine to have a conversation.
Certainly.
And I think that's incredibly important. In other countries, that would have been impossible. But I think we can do it here in the United States in a very civilized way, and nothing happens.
I'm not sure the United States is the only place where this is possible.
Oh, no,
I
of
think
course,
any European country, it would probably be possible. Maybe not in Mexico.
And maybe in many countries in Latin America,
Yes.
it would be very difficult
Right.
that opposites could sit down
Yes, yes.
and just have a conversation.
Right.
So let me start just with the basic. I want to understand what's your ideal, what's your dream for this country? What would you like to see?
I think every nation is happiest when its people are homogeneous. In the United States, we're told over and over again that diversity is a strength. Diversity is not a strength. It's a source of conflict.
I think it's a strength.
Then why is Mexico not inviting Haitians and Guatemalans and Vietnamese into Mexico to make it more diverse? No, Mexico wishes to remain Mexican, and God bless Mexico for that. I would wish that America remained America, America of the 1950s or 60s, or the 1860s for that matter.
Well, America now means diversity. America means Asians, America means African Americans, Latinos, and non-Hispanic whites.
That is very recent, very recent. As you know, until 1965, we had an immigration policy that was designed specifically to keep the United States majority white. And that was a perfect immigration policy in my view. In fact, your country, Mexico, in part of your basic
I'm also American, by the way.
I know you have a dual nationality, but I
do,
somehow
yeah.
suspect that you think of yourself as more Mexican than American.
No, I think of myself as Mexican American. As a matter of fact.
Mexican American.
Yes. You were telling me about your vision of America.
Yes, I think that homogeneous countries are happier countries. All around the world, wherever you look, if you see conflict, people diligently slitting each other's throats, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Africa, it's because of diversity. People who are different from each other trying to share the same territories. And look here in the United States. We have had the civil rights movement of 50 years ago, and blacks are still rioting. When Mexicans and other immigrants come to this country, they create enclaves. They don't get along with blacks either. There's always this tension of, do we have enough representation? Do we have enough? You don't agree? All of the major conflicts in the United States are really based on diversity. Diversity of ethnicity, of language, of religion, but primarily of race.
So, what would you like to see? Would you like to see a white country?
I think most whites very clearly prefer to live in a majority white neighborhood. And I know that's the case because I see what they do when the neighborhood becomes majority non-white. They move away. They would never admit that they prefer a white society because they've been browbeaten into thinking that it's wrong to say that. But that's the way they feel in their bones, and I know that because I see what they do.
So what would you want to do? So if you want to live in a white-only country?
Not necessarily white only, but a country that is clearly based on a European model in which whites will basically remain the overwhelming majority in perpetuity.
Okay, how do you achieve that?
Well, that's an excellent question. We were about to do that. Up until 1965, we did have a country of that kind. I can tell you how to lose that country. You lose that country, of course, by abolishing the kind of immigration policy that was maintaining a white United States and letting in people from all over the world. You lose that when you browbeat and hypnotize into Americans thinking that diversity is a wonderful thing. You lose that when you have them chanting, white Americans chanting that it'll be great to be a minority.
But that changed in 1965. I do agree
Yes,
that Immigration Act was one of the most important.
Oh, maybe the
in this
most
country.
important law in the history of the United States.
I think we can agree on that.
Yes,
Now, and
yes.
that has changed the country.
Right?
Now,
I want to change it back.
how?
Well, Donald Trump has got some first good steps in mind. He wants to make sure no more illegal immigrants come into the country, and he wants to make sure that all illegal immigrants here go back. He wants to end birthright citizenship. He wants to put at least a temporary ban on Muslim immigration. Those are all excellent first steps. In any case, as I say, the
taxes,
economic
they create
argument,
jobs.
the economic arguments to me are far less important than what happens to the United States as a cultural entity. I am loyal to my people. My people are of a European origin. And I want my descendants and their descendants to be able to enjoy a European culture in a nation that has that culture as its central one.
That's just so
And that-
limited, Mr. Taylor.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah, because
that's what
what
Mexicans
happens with
want.
what happens with Asians? What happens with African Americans? What happens with Latinos? What happens with Native Americans?
What happens to my
You presented
people,
me with a very limited view of the United States.
that is the view that the Japanese have for Japan, Mexicans have for Mexico, Indians have for India. No other country, except for white countries, would ever countenance an immigration policy that would reduce them to a minority. I'm sure that if hundreds of thousands of white people were pouring across the border into Mexico, and they were buying up broadcasting stations, broadcasting in English, insisting on ballot papers in English, and wanting to be school instructed in English, and some of them might be talking about breaking off a chunk of Mexico and making an all-white enclave.
Yeah,
Would the Mexicans accept such a transformation of their society?
we're talking about what's happening right now here in the United States,
I'm
because
talking
that's the
about
reality
Mexico.
here in the United States.
I would
I have some numbers.
No, you won't answer my question, will you? Because
go ahead.
because you know that Mexicans would say absolutely no way will we be reduced to minority in our own country.
That's-
They would say they would rather
That
shoot
debate
people than
is
let them.
non-existent whatsoever right now in Mexico.
I know.
Nobody's discussing that. Nobody's discussing that in Latin
Because-
America. But we are discussing it here in the United States
And-
because we are a country of immigrants.
Wait.
And that's completely different than
It
the
is
history
not.
of Mexico in Latin America. So you
What
cannot
you're-
put it in the same way.
What you're setting
Two
up is a
completely
double
different
standard.
No, it's not a double
in
standard.
You're in effect saying America is up for grabs. Anybody who
But I'm
comes
saying
is
is
welcome, but not
America is a
Mexico.
country of immigrants.
No,
That's
let
what I'm
me
saying.
finish. You're saying the United States is a place anybody can come and turn it into anything you want, and the people who built this country and established its institutions, if they glimmer away, so what?
Isn't this an exceptional country simply because of that? Simply because immigrants came here. Your
Wait,
family,
wait.
where's your family from, Mr. Taylor?
They're from England. They showed up here in the 17th
Exactly, so
century.
you're a Native
No.
American.
I'm a Native American. My ancestors were pioneers. They were not immigrants.
Okay,
They
and
built this
before,
country.
before those pioneers,
But hold on. I
there
wanna
were
get back to- I wanna-
Spaniards in this territory.
Not
Hernando de
Virginia.
Soto came in
No.
1540.
Well, that was down in the southwestern part of the
Exactly.
But I want to get back to this view you have of America as uniquely up for grabs. That's your vision of America. Whereas Mexico is not up for grabs, nor is Brazil, nor is Japan. Those
They have
nations,
completely different stories.
well, but yes,
Because
but
we're
wait.
talking about a nation of immigrants, which
Look.
is unique and exceptional in almost the rest of the world,
The
Mr.
United
Taylor.
States
So you cannot
was-
put in the same place
I think
two completely different stories.
no, human nature does not change. Human nature is tribal. You are saying that the United States and only the United States does not
Not
have
only the
right-
United
no,
States,
let me
there are
finish.
other
Let me
countries with a lot of immigrants. Australia, you see what's happening.
Exactly. All these white countries. You say they must become multicultural. They may not preserve their ethnic heritage. You're saying that they have to open themselves to the
It's
entire
not that they
world.
must, that's the reality. Let me ask you something.
And I'm saying that 1965 was a mistake. For the vast majority of
I'm
the
saying it was a great success, one of the most important measures ever taken in
Because
this
people
country.
like you could come and outnumber me. That's why you think it's a success, don't you?
Let me.
No. Could you answer that question? Because people like me will become minorities.
No, precisely.
You
I
are-
want to show you
Yes,
the
you
numbers that I
are-
have on that.
You are promoting a process that will reduce my people to a minority. You approve of increased Hispanic power. You have said we are 17% of the population,
Yeah.
but we have only 3 senators. Who's we? We as Hispanics.
Latinos, yeah.
Latinos. You want more power for Latinos. That comes at the expense
Exactly.
of my people's power.
But-
Why do you want to take away my power?
You're talking about my people as if you were completely separated from me.
Why do you want to take away my power? Why do you want to reduce my people to a minority?
I'm not reducing your power. What's happening
Of
is
course
that
you are.
Of course not. What's happening is that because you're thinking of Americans as completely separated, as if white Americans were separated from Latinos and from African Americans and Asians, and you're wrong on that, Mr. Taylor.
No.
We are
No.
what the
Look at
Declaration
the
of
way-
Independence is just beautiful. 1776. All men are created equal. Aren't we equal, Mr. Taylor?
We are equal in all sorts of ways. We're equal before the law, but we are also unequal in 1,000 different ways. But you keep running away.
But we're both Americans, aren't
you
we?
keep running away from my question.
No, go ahead.
Yes. You say that we are all the same, and
Yes.
yet you talk about we are 17%, and we have only 3 senators. You're talking about Latinos. Blacks
When
speak...
I'm talking
no,
about
no, no.
Latinos, yes.
Blacks speak in exactly the same terms. They think of themselves as black first, and then American.
No.
Many Latinos think of themselves as Hispanic, Latino first.
I'm just
In
pointing
fact,
out a
if you-
reality about a minority in this country in which you are 17% of the population,
Right.
and we only have 3 senators. So therefore, we don't have the political representation that we deserve.
And you want more and more and more.
Of
don't
course, because we only
How
have 3
much?
senators.
you? How much political?
At this point, 14 senators.
I see. You'd be satisfied with 14. And 50 years from now, how many would you like?
Let's talk about 50 years from now.
Yes.
These are the numbers that I have.
All right.
And I think maybe we can agree on the Census Bureau. In 2044,
Yes.
white non-Hispanics
Become a minority.
will become a minority.
Right.
24. Is that what you are afraid of?
I think every white person in his bones thinks this is a terrible thing. They will never dare say so.
I think it is just
but they think it's a
fantastic
terrible-
about
Yes, it's,
multiculturalism. here.
Mr. Ramos, it's fantastic for you, for my people to lose power and become a minority. That's fantastic for you. How does it feel for
Because
me?
it is our country, Mr.
Our
Ted.
country, our
It is our country. Don't you
And-
think it is our country?
And if the people who built this country and established its institutions and established its culture become elbowed off the stage of history, you think that's wonderful.
No, I think we are sharing
We are sharing. And
the
no-
history. We are sharing the power.
this
We are
is-
sharing the territory. It is our
Yes.
country. Don't you think we both have the same rights in this country?
I think that you are, as I say, fighting for the rights for your people. The people that you consider we, Latinos, Hispanics. You want more power, more numbers,
The
more
first
influence
we
them.
for me is Americans. The first we.
All right, I'll take your word for it. But I think somehow that if the first we for you was America, you would not be constantly fighting for Latinos. That is
Because
your
that's
mission
a
in life.
minority. That's a minority. That's underrepresented politically,
Then, well,
and that they
yes.
do deserve the political representation that their numbers are showing.
How about Haitians? Do you fight for them? Are they adequately represented? How
I
about
fight
Dominicans?
for
How
all
about
minorities. I fight for all minorities equally.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
So-
And-
so
but
let me-
it's only the majority that's your enemy.
No,
Only the majority you want to
I
pull
don't.
down.
It's really interesting. I don't think non-Hispanic whites are my enemy. Of course not. We
But-
are
but-
all Americans, aren't we?
But you're clearly constantly taking sides. You say you're fighting for all minorities. You say that means you
Of
fight
course.
for everyone but white Americans.
No. What I'm saying is that those minorities that are being discriminated, that don't have enough power,
Right.
that don't have enough political representation, I think we should fight for them.
Okay, and as long as white people are a majority, you will continue to fight against us and take our power, take
It's not
our
against
numbers,
you,
take
Mr.
our
Taylor,
influences.
and it's not against whites.
Objectively,
It
it
is.
is against the majority. The majority is white, and you want to systematically take away the white majority's power.
Do you think that because you are white, you are superior to
No.
African Americans?
No, not at all.
Or that
But
you are superior to Latinos?
No.
Or Asians?
No, I think
Then?
that all people have the right to pursue their own destiny. The United States was established as a European country. In 1790, the very first immigration law, naturalization law, allowed only free white people of good character to become Americans. Because the founding fathers, despite this nonsense in the Declaration about anybody being anyone, the white
It's
people
not
would-
nonsense.
no,
It's the
no.
most beautiful phrase in the Declaration of Independence.
First of all, it's not true by any stretch of the imagination, but in any case,
Excuse me,
white
you
people,
don't
the white
think
people,
we are all created equal?
no, I think all
You-
people are profoundly
You don't think
unequal.
we are equal? Don't you,
We are
you don't
equal
think
in
that
s-
you are exactly the same as an African American?
In an abstract political sense, perhaps, but there are people who are
No, in
better
real
athletes than
terms,
I-
Mr.
No,
Taylor.
no, there are people who are better
You
athletes
don't think
than
you're
I
the same
am.
as an African American?
We are the same species of human being, but there are
Genetically,
many.
don't you think
No,
we're the same?
We are the same species, but name a single
But
person
wait,
who is equal
because
to
you don't
in
want to
any
say
respect.
that you are the same as an African American. How come?
I'm the same species, but look, the point is,
And then you
no
have exactly
human
the same
being-
rights.
No human beings are identically equal. But let's set that aside. The whole
No,
idea.
because that's
No.
the basic, that's the essence of this discussion.
No,
that you
it's
might
not.
think that you are better than African Americans or Latinos or Asians.
I'm not saying better at all. I'm saying we build different societies. And when the United States was established, the idea was that only free white persons of good character could be admitted to this country as citizens. That was the basic conception of the United States. It outposted
And then
Europe.
it changed.
It changed many years later.
Men changed history.
And it was a major mistake.
Men changed
But-
laws.
But the point is,
That happens in all the world.
the United States, as a conception, continued until 1965, and when that law was passed, it was not offered to the American people as something that would change the demographics of the United States.
Let me ask you about Muslims. You said
All right,
in a robocall
yes,
supporting Donald Trump
right.
this year, you said, we don't need Muslims. We need smart, well-educated white people who will assimilate to our culture. Vote Trump.
Right, you're right,
Donald Trump disavowed this call.
yes, and therefore,
And you say, we don't need Muslims.
no.
Okay, so what are you going to do with the thousands of Muslims,
We certainly
American citizens, who are serving in the military and who are protecting you right now in the police departments across the country?
we don't need any more Muslims. How many
You
Syrian
didn't say
refugees?
more Muslims.
No,
You say, we don't
no.
need Muslims.
We
So-
don't need Muslims.
And they are part of this country.
Yes.
Thousands of them, Mr. Taylor,
I'm-
serving us, protecting
Don,
us in the military.
I'm sure that we just couldn't possibly survive with all those Muslim Navy Rangers. Yes, I'm sure that's true. But I'm talking
Well,
about. I'm
you're
talking
making
about,
fun of them,
I'm
but that is not right.
No, I'm talking
You
about
cannot make
Muslim-
fun of people who are saving our lives and protecting us.
Muslims in large numbers. We see what the consequence of that is in Europe. In Europe, Muslims become this indigestible mass of aliens who are incapable of integrating in a meaningful way. And I notice that there's not a single Latin American country that has proposed to let these Syrian Muslims, these so-called refugees, into those countries. Obviously, Mexico, Central America,
Refugees,
South America.
Mr. Taylor, not
yes.
so-called refugees.
Those
Refugees
people,
that they're fighting for their
Yes.
lives.
And how many
they're
has
fleeing
Brazil?
their countries because they're being killed over
How
there.
many Latin American countries have admitted a single one? No, they don't want Muslims either, because they know what a problem Muslims are in any sort of large numbers.
I wouldn't say that there are no racial tensions in this country. Of course there are,
Yes,
and we have many examples.
many examples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be, it's impossible, and it would be unfair to say
Yes.
that African Americans are in a different category as you.
In a different category. In
We're
the aggregate,
we're all the same, Mr. Taylor.
that if we really were all the same, there would be no racial tensions, would there? You say there is a great deal of racial tension. No, let me finish. The very existence of racial tension between people who have tried to live together for hundreds of years, and it still persists. This is proof that assimilation is not possible across racial lines, and
No.
that diversity is a weakness for America,
No, I would-
not for a strength.
I would see in a completely different way. I would say that in a country in which we had slavery, in a country in which we had discrimination and racism.
So again,
the
it's
fa-
all
the-
our fault.
no,
It's white
the
people's
fa-
fault.
The fact that right now we have an African American president means progress, don't you think?
It's certainly an acceptance of an important symbol, but the fact
Among
that
many other
again,
things.
again, you are saying that the reason blacks have not assimilated is the fault of whites who have mistreated them. If you look at blacks in nations with completely different histories than that of the United States, Canada, or Great Britain, for example, you will find that blacks are in exactly the same socioeconomic and crime profile situation as they are here. This shows you that it is American history is not some kind of unique debilitator of blacks. What we find among blacks in the United States, and what you find in Britain and in the United States, in Canada, is a reflection of racial differences that will persist no matter what kind of social programs you wish to implement. I think that your primary loyalty, whether you say so or not, and perhaps I'm wrong, and I don't wish to impute motives to you that are unfair. But it seems to me that your actions, you want more power for Latinos, and I don't think it's simply because they have less power than they deserve numerically. I think, in your view, America will be a better country if there are more Hispanics exercising more power and leaving their mark on this society and its culture. That, to me, is against my interests. I believe that it is within my interests and that of all European-derived Americans to live in a society that is stamped with the mark of European culture. I think that white Americans had at one point a special and unique destiny that it was their duty and their privilege to pursue without being changed, without their society being hemmed in from all sides by people unlike themselves who reduce them to probably a despised minority, perhaps 50 or 60 years from now. So this process has been one of dispossession for my people, my culture, and my heritage. And I don't see why that is anything that I should be criticized for. It's the most natural, normal, healthy thing in the world for me to want my people and civilization to flourish and survive. Unless the United States is prepared to say to Muslims, no, we do not want you here. It's prepared to say to Guatemalans and Haitians and Bolivians, no, we wish to have a nation for our own people and our own posterity. Unless whites are prepared to exclude people, then they will be shoved aside. That is the ultimate fate that my people are faced with because of the insistence of people from all around the world who wish to come in and say, we will reduce you to a minority, like it or not. That is the fate that I look to and which I will fight until my last breath. And you say it is illegitimate for any white person to prefer to live in a white majority neighborhood or white majority.
I would say it's immoral, and
it's
I would
immoral.
say it's illegal.
Wait, I'm not talking about it. You think it's immoral. Is it immoral for a Latino to wish to live in a majority Latino country? Is that immoral?
It is immoral if you exclude others, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, wait.
You cannot, why am I going to be excluding any other person simply
Wait.
because of their origin? I cannot do that.
Every Latin American country excludes practically everyone. Until not long ago, your nation had as part of its immigration law, it was written that immigrants will not disrupt the demographic balance. That is exclusion. That is precisely what it is. In order
And
for
it's a country with a
wait,
completely different history than the United States.
Again, more double standards for America.
No, it's not double standard. It is history. You went to
Only-
Yale, you know history.
Oh, you're saying only America is up for grabs, not Mexico, no, not Brazil.
What I'm saying is
The United
that the
States
United
is up
States
for
has a
grabs.
unique history.